All right, so let's go to our first game of the week here, Fresh. We're going out, and I think all eyes are on this game for kind of different reasons. We're talking about Colorado traveling to TCU to start the season. Right now, at time of record, TCU is a 21-point favorite in this game. They're the home team, but this is really this whole weekend to me is kind of what I call the showcase weekend, Fresh. This is an opportunity for us to we've read preview magazines, we've listened to podcasts, listened to all of these other things. This is the time where you showcase what you have early on the season, get some buzz about you, get some talking. Guess what? They've done that in Colorado. Anytime you hire Deion Sanders as your head coach, you're going to create some buzz. The man is pure charisma as a head coach. Great job at that part. Oh, yeah. They wind up transferring in almost their entire roster. Last I checked recently on the 2-deep depth chart, on offense, they have only 3 kids that are not brand new players on offense and 1 kid who is not a brand new player on defense there. And then you got a team like TCU coming off making it to the national title game, a truly Cinderella season for them, running into Georgia at the end of the season. But you got to give a lot of credit to what Sonny Dykes did last year. Max Duggan is gone. You know, we're going to have to talk about Chandler Morris being back. You know, he was the starter last year, but a lot going on here. Colorado, though, I think that everyone wants to talk about it, but we're talking about stuff we don't know yet.
That's exactly right, Seth. And you kind of look at it, you mentioned the 2 deep. There's 86 new players in this team. That's the most in FBS since 2018. 53 transfer players, which also led all of FBS. This is complete program, a mindset, a culture overhaul. We saw spring practice, they played the game in the snow, and even I think after that ball game, 12 kids, 15 kids hit the portal before they even took a shower. So you have no idea what to expect other than Shadur Sanders, the quarterback, and obviously Deion Sun, and then Travis Hunter, corner/wide receiver, playmaker extraordinaire. You kind of know what they did at Jackson State. There was a reason why Sanders was a 4-star recruit even before he went there. There's a reason why Hunter was the number 1 overall recruit in the country and went to Jackson State. The kids can play. I want to see what they do in this football game and what kind of show they put on. But who else is going to step up? Who's going to actually rise to the occasion? Because I don't think this is a 1-year thing where Deion's going to be there for a year and he's going to run away. This is, I'm going to come in, completely overhaul the culture. I'm going to showcase and make you guys want to be here. And if you don't show up in game 1, you might not play in the second half. You might not play week 2. You've got to bring it every single way because Deion wants to win. All the guys around him want to win. So this is going to be, how fast does that entire culture gel? How do the players react to each other going into an environment like Fort Worth? Carter Amos Stadium there, and TCU, the defending runner-up. This is a fever pitch to moment where Colorado might actually outplay their own potential because they're going to play with extra juice in the opening game, and they might look better than what they are as the season rolls on, or they come out sloppy, dysfunctional, and then they actually truly gel as a team midway through the year and get better. I said earlier, I expect this team to be better in the second half of the season when they finally start getting together and figuring it out. I think they're going to be very choppy in this opening game. They're going to play with a lot of motion early, but you cannot expect this team to come out there fluid, locked in, everyone being on the same page from the get-go. That's going to be very tough. But roster turnover is not just a Colorado issue right now. It's also from TCU. They lost Duggan, as you mentioned. Kendre Miller's gone. Quentin Johnson, Davis is gone. A host of other players, Hodges, the corner. They have to fill out that roster as well. They've got guys who are returning more than Colorado. They still got to plug a lot of holes. Who's going to show up? Chandler Morris obviously won the job last year and then got hurt. Duggan took over. What's he going to show? Now the expectation of being where Duggan was a Heisman finalist. Now you're actually at that tier of you're the starter. You have got to be a Heisman finalist to be able to match that same season technically that Duggan had last year. That's where the expectation is for you in this offense. So what does Sonny Dykes actually do? Can he actually be consistent at this program? He's been at Cal. He wasn't consistent. Now he's back at TCU, had the 1-year hit. Can he be consistent? The Big 12, as we all seen, especially with Texas and Oklahoma leaving after this year, it's ripe for the taking. You got to make a statement that this league is still yours. You didn't even win the Big 12 last year. You lost to Kansas State. You've got to find a way to actually own the league. This starts right here about beating Colorado and beating them decisively. You can't come out here and flop, and everyone's going to be like, well, last year definitely was a fluke. TCU is not for real. So the pressure's on them to produce. The pressure's on the players to show up and play a Deion standard. So this is actually going to be a very high-octane football game. Outside of that, with so much roster turnover, we really can't tell you offensive line, defensive line, which receiver is going to light up and show up and scheme wise. That's all up in the air. We're going to find that out, probably about 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon. The 20 points, the 21, that's a pretty large spread for a bunch of unknowns. I will take Colorado in the points. I think TCU wins outright, but I think they don't cover. They will not cover the spread. That's a lot of points to put up there against a lot of unknowns. But I think TCU maybe wins by like 17, but they do not cover the 21.
Yeah, the eyes of the nation are going to be watching Coach Sanders and, that entire team, from everything from Travis Hunter to Joe Horn Jr., which I love that his kid's now in the NFL because he was one of the first wide receivers I ever drafted when I was playing fantasy football as a kid. But Fresh, you're going into Fort Worth, and anytime we're talking about a game in Fort Worth, we keep Fort Worth funky like a monkey, baby. So we're going to get really funky in this game. I'm staying away from this game. You're right. Funky things happen in Fort Worth, and 21 for a bunch of unknowns is a little bit weird for me. I could see a lot of things happening in this game. The interesting thing for me, though, is everyone wants to talk about Max Duggan. He's gone. Chandler Morse having to replace. He was the starter at the beginning of the year, and he goes down with injury. While, yes, I can say that's a big storyline, I really think the really big storyline is the loss of Miller, and Imani Bailey is now their starting running back there. The kid was averaging 8 yards a carry in a very limited duty last year, and I want to see what he's going to do with more opportunities. He's a smaller running back, about 5'8", kind of like a bowling ball type of kid. I like the idea behind him, but I really need to see it in action. I need to see how he's going to run behind this offensive line. If that offensive line is going to be able to get the push. I think where TCU is going to win this game is going to be in the trenches. Yeah, Deion Sanders made the big splashes with the skill position players and getting them to transfer in. But football's still a game that's going to be won and lost in the trenches. I think that's where TCU is going to get the advantage. I would pick TCU to win. The point thing is what scares me. I stay away from that on there. There's too much unknown for me there. But I really think that we're going to have a fairly good idea on where this Colorado team is at the end of week 1. I think if they go in and pull the upset against TCU, because everyone's going to say, oh, well, TCU lost a bunch. Guys, this was the runner-up to the national title game, okay? Even though, yes, you did lose a few players from this team, that doesn't mean that there's absolutely no talent. Those 4 or 5 players you lost to the NFL are not the whole reason you made it to the national championship game. There's a lot of talent still there. Sonny Dykes is a really, really good coach. I don't want maybe say he's a great coach yet because I need to see him do it. Like you talked about consistency, Fresh. I got to see him do it year in and year out. But I still have a lot of respect for Sonny Dykes. So this game is something I'm going to be interested in. I'm going to watch it. I really am going to kind of more enjoy this game of football because this is our first look of what Colorado could be. Talk time is over. It's now all about put up or shut up for the Buffs. But we'll see what they do here because, again, I'm staying away from this game. But, hey, there are a lot more people that have a better read on it than I do. It's just kind of how I'm thinking about it.
I mean, one thing before you head on to another game is I think the mental fortitude for Colorado, no matter what happens, if they come in and they play competitive, how does that build their psyche going into next week at home in the opener versus Nebraska? Now, if they get blown out and they get destroyed, how does this team, a bunch of, cast-offs, if you will, for lack of a better term, how do they come together and find a way to not get blown out against Nebraska and so on and so forth and stem the tide? So not just how this game goes and the ebbs and flows, but how the game in the second half and then how they do it, depending on the outcome, how this team grows. It's going to be very intriguing to follow.